Entering high school, he was the model Catholic student who had hopes of playing Premier League soccer. But by the time he was in college, he had completely abandoned his faith, all while becoming one of the best kickers in NCAA history. So how did he get here? And what caused Harrison Butker to go from giving up on his religion entirely to becoming the most hated man in all of football because of it? Because there was a specific person that caused this change, and even they couldn't have predicted how Butker would respond to this backlash. Well, we're about to find out, because this is the story of the controversial rise of Harrison Butker. Butker was born on July 14, 1995 in a suburb of Atlanta. His parents, Harrison Butker Sr. and Elizabeth Butker, both worked solid jobs. His dad in finance and his mom as a clinical physicist at Emory University. Butker's mom is actually the more accomplished of his two parents, holding 2 degrees. One a bachelor's in chemistry from Smith College and the other a master's degree in medical physics from Georgia Tech. She's even worked in Emory University's oncology department, helping to treat cancer patients since 1988, following the footsteps of her own father, who worked at the same school for 28 years. Now, Harrison Butker's upbringing can be described as fairly typical. He grew up Catholic and went to Mass every Sunday with his family, but as he got older, sports began to take priority in his life.
Yeah, so I grew up Catholic. I was going to Mass every Sunday, and then I think that stopped a little bit, doing all the travel, year-round club soccer, fell away a little bit. And then I think in high school, I was just curious. I didn't go to a Catholic high school, and I just started questioning, what's the difference between Catholicism and every other Christian denomination, and then even started questioning Christianity and just looked at different religions. I kind of had I was very curious, and I asked a lot of questions.
And as religion started to fade into the background, Butker's love of sports took up nearly all of his time. See, growing up, Butker was a talented soccer player. He played on a club team year-round and even had the goal of one day playing professionally in the English Premier League. However, once he got to high school, his love for the game started to fade. He felt burnt out, but he still wasn't willing to give up soccer entirely. Butker attended the Westminster schools in high school, a K-12 Christian school that, as of this recording, cost $36,560 per year to attend. During his freshman year, he made the varsity soccer team, which was rare at a school like Westminster, but Butker's skills were undeniable. So much so that he helped lead the team to 2 state championships during his 4 years. And his reputation as a star soccer player even made it to the football team, when then senior kicker Jeff Osser was tasked with finding his following year's replacement. Now, Osser and Butker both played tuba together in the school's symphonic band, and it was during Butker's freshman year that Osser asked if he had ever considered playing football. Butker hadn't, but after thinking about it for a few days, he decided to give it a shot the following season. After all, he was getting burnt out by soccer, so he felt like football might be a nice way for him to continue to utilize his powerful right leg, just in a different way. So that spring and summer, Butker trained to try out for the team, and by his sophomore year, his first ever year playing football, he was kicking for Westminster's varsity squad. And by his junior year, he was already being named first team All-State as well as first team All-American. He went on to repeat both awards his senior year while also being named ProKickers.com Athlete of the Year by regularly making 50-plus yard field goals, which included making a school record 53-yarder. See, football helped Butker fall back in love with sports, and the technical and calculated nature of kicking suited him well. But his success on the gridiron also meant that his goal had shifted from playing professional soccer to playing in the NFL. But as he admitted at the time, he had no idea how the college football recruiting process even worked, or just how big Division I college football really was. However, without much effort, Butker was ranked as the number 6 kicker in the nation and the 101st recruit in the state of Georgia. This was good enough to give him a 3-star rating and his pick of 4 Division I schools: East Carolina, Boston College, Auburn, and Georgia Tech. But his decision was actually pretty easy. That's because Butker grew up as a fan of the school his mom got her master's degree from. Not to mention his backup plan was to become an industrial engineer if the football thing didn't work out. And what better place to study engineering and play football than Georgia Tech? So in February 2013, Harrison Butker signed his letter of intent to attend college less than 6 miles from his house. But even he couldn't have prepared for just how distant he was about to feel. Now, Butker was an immediate contributor at Georgia Tech. He was a 4-year starter for the Yellow Jackets and ended his time there as the all-time leading scorer in school history as well as a team captain. But while he was having all of the success on the field, off the field he still wasn't quite sure who he was. In an interview, Butker describes how once he got to college, he stopped practicing any and all religion completely. That was until his senior year. See, in 2016, Butker was in the middle of his best season yet, during which he got to know one of the team's newest players, a walk-on punter named Grant Asen. Now, Asen had actually been around the team since 2014 when he arrived at Georgia Tech and joined the scout team. But it wasn't until his junior year in 2016 that he finally made the game day roster as the backup punter. He remembers not having a great relationship with Butker during his first 2 years with the team, claiming that Butker acted like he was too good for him. And Asen remembers being annoyed by that attitude. In fact, according to Asen, him and Butker despised each other. But by 2016, Butker's senior season, they had no choice but to get along as Asen was now practicing with the team's starters. Another interesting wrinkle is that by this point, Asen had already decided that he was going to forego his final year of eligibility to become a priest. And as a self-described outspoken Catholic, this meant that a lot of his conversations with Butker revolved around religion. And while I'm sure many of his teammates were turned off by these conversations, Butker took a particular interest in what Asen had to say, even going as far as to ask him deeper questions about Catholicism.
What's unique to Catholicism against every other Christian denomination? Why does the Catholic Church believe these old traditional views when, it's just outdated? Like, why are they still stuck in those times? And he just provided reason. I guess it was like almost catechesis whenever I met with him. And that was really the first time I was presented with those truths.
But as he found himself diving deeper into his old religion, Butker had an interesting realization.
I did have this deep conversion, but then it was just struggling with being bold and confident with that in every area of my life, and I think that was somewhat of a slow transition for me because it's hard to kind of change your ways and kind of like maybe tell people that you're not on board with doing these certain things anymore. I think that's a difficult thing for people is to finally make that change and say, I found the truth, this is the way I want to live my life now, and then, with that I have to proclaim that to everyone around me, and I might lose some friends because of it.
But while Butker grappled with his religious transformation, he still had a dream to live out. And with the 233rd pick of the 2017 NFL Draft, Harrison Butker was selected by the Carolina Panthers. Soon after, he signed a 4-year, $2.48 million deal, but before ever attempting a kick for the team, he was placed on the practice squad during the second week of the 2017 season. However, less than 2 weeks later, on September 26th, the Kansas City Chiefs signed Butker to their practice squad after their starter Cairo Santos went down with a groin injury. And that following Sunday, Butker made his NFL debut against Washington, where he kicked a 43-yard game-winning field goal. Travis Kelce later admitted that he had to introduce himself to Butker before the game. But it wouldn't be long until everyone started to learn who he was. That's because by November 26th of that year, Butker had already set a franchise record by making 23 consecutive field goals. He went on to end the year by setting another franchise record for most made field goals in a single season. Butker would play out the next 2 seasons of his rookie contract and then signed a 5-year, $20.275 million extension with the Chiefs in 2019. And normally, his story would just end here. But increasingly, Butker has become better known off the field, and it didn't just start with his speech at Benedictine College. That's because as Butker began earning more and more on-field notoriety, he started to shift his focus off the field.
I'm making kicks because God wants me to have a platform, at least for right now, to share this message of faith, of growing in virtue, of growing closer to the sacraments, and of being a saint. And I'm so passionate about that. And I know whenever God wants me to be quiet and go off and be forgotten, he'll have that in store, and I'm ready for that. But right now, he has me here, and I'm so grateful, and I'm just trying to do my best to take advantage of the talents that he's given me.
So how is Butker doing that? Well, first, it's important to note what he actually believes in. See, since college, Butker has described himself as a traditional Catholic. I won't go into too much detail, but for those of you who don't know, a traditional Catholic is different from the Catholic you might be thinking of in the sense that they don't believe in any changes the Pope and the Church have made since the 60s because they believe those changes were bad and have led to a weakening of the religion. This means that traditional Catholics like Butker still attend masses that are spoken in Latin, and they have a stricter interpretation of the Bible when it comes to things like science, gender roles, and social norms. It's not uncommon for traditional Catholics to oppose things like evolution or women working outside of the home. In fact, because of beliefs like these, Butker himself has even said that the modern-day Catholic Church has made him feel persecuted. But still, Butker has remained determined to being, as he describes, unapologetically Catholic. So let's look at what he means by that. For starters, Butker has been a staunch opponent of vaccines and abortion, but his stance on both issues haven't garnered much media attention outside of local publications and right-wing outlets. In fact, Butker even gave a different commencement speech a full year before his Benedictine college speech that hardly received any attention. Now, admittedly, the language of this speech was far more subtle, and given the fact that he was speaking at a public university like Georgia Tech, it probably meant that he purposely toned down the religious references to make it more applicable to a general audience. That being said, he still managed to throw in some comments about identity politics and cancel culture, but even the most newsworthy part of this speech was pretty tame.
It would seem the more connected people are to one another, the more they feel alone. I'm not sure the root of this, but at least I can offer one controversial antidote that I believe will have a lasting impact for generations to come. Get married and start a family.
But all of these previous comments were quickly forgotten about after Butker was asked to give a speech at a Catholic liberal arts school in Atchison, Kansas. Now, I'm not sure why these comments from Butker went so viral when similar comments he's made before haven't. Regardless, Butker's now infamous 20-minute commencement speech has been viewed over 2 million times on YouTube alone and hundreds of millions more times on Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. In it, he speaks out against birth control, IVF treatments, he calls Pride Month a deadly sin, says things like COVID-19 lockdowns and the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion are a part of declining societal morals, and implies that a woman's highest calling is as a homemaker. The backlash to the speech was almost immediate, and as of this recording, there are over 250,000 signatures on a petition calling for the Chiefs to release Butker. Not to mention the team, the NFL, and Butker's most notable teammates have all come out and distanced themselves from his comments. But at the same time, Butker's jersey sales skyrocketed to become one of the best sellers in the NFL in the days and weeks following the speech. For his part, Butker waited a few weeks to respond, doing so at a Catholic fundraising gala themed Courage Under Fire. During his response, Butker talked about how the timeless Catholic values are hated by many, and claimed that now, more than ever, others need to speak in support of those same values he expressed during his Benedictine commencement speech because they are all a part of a group that is under attack.
My hope is that tonight's theme and RCA's mission will embolden others, that many more will be unapologetic of their Catholic faith and never be afraid to speak out for truth, even when it goes against the loudest voices.
In the wake of his speech, Butker still attended the Chiefs' White House visit and even stood behind President Biden with the rest of the team, someone he's spoken out against a number of times. Coming into this season, Butker is on the final year of his 5-year extension with the Chiefs, and while he's already earned more than $20 million in his career, he's also just 28 years old, meaning the Catholic kicker from Atlanta isn't done making headlines on or off the field anytime soon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I have a couple other NFL videos that I think you might enjoy, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next upload.